Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all well. So in this video we are going to be reviewing the Star Wars Clone Wars movie, which was set in between episodes 2 and episodes 3 and was a bit of an introduction into the Clone Wars animated TV series, and was also a great opportunity to introduce us to the brilliant Ahsoka character and to kind of see more adventures with the prequel characters, as they are so legendary, and to kind of see more of what happens before Revenge of the Sith totally destroys and destructs everything. It did feel a little bit like an extended TV show episode rather than an epic Star Wars movie, but that being said, it is still a fun entry, even though it is a lot more of a smaller scale film compared to the rest, and it was really nice to kind of see a lot of the cast returning for this special one-off film as well. So with that being said, let's get on with the review for Clone Wars and break everything down in this movie review. Now, in terms of the storyline, as this is a Star Wars film, they did actually pack in quite a lot in this movie. So let's go through the main storyline strands in Star Wars Clone Wars. So the first one is obviously the introduction of the Ahsoka character and how she's going to be Anakin Skywalker's new Padawan. I did find this really interesting, how they've inserted a brand new character that you've never heard of before throughout the entire Star Wars mythology, at least up until that point. And now they've introduced a brilliant new character that's going to be the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker. So a bit of a risky move, but it did kind of work out, especially now when we look back and we see how Ahsoka was there throughout the entire timeline and why she wasn't there in episode 3. So they definitely explained everything throughout the Clone Wars TV show, but it was a really big move that they introduced this character in this film. The next storyline strand is all to do with Jabba the Hutt's son, which is what the main storyline interestingly is based around, as Jabba the Hutt's son is missing and all of the different characters are going around the galaxy trying to find him, which is a hilarious plot when you think about it, especially compared to all of the epicness that typically happens in Star Wars films. The next storyline strand is all about the Jedis versus the Separatists. Obviously the Separatists were big characters in episode 3, so it's really nice to kind of see a lot more about them and where they're kind of coming from and why they don't like the Jedis and all of that sort of thing. And obviously they were a lot more prevalent throughout the Clone Wars series. Next is Obi Wan versus Asajj Ventress, who is Dooku's Padawan, which is really interesting, him kind of having somebody that he's looking after and her kind of being up against Obi Wan Kenobi. So that was a really interesting mix. Next up we have Dooku versus Anakin Skywalker. Obviously Anakin Skywalker, we know in the future, is going to be Palpatine's new apprentice, so it's really nice to kind of see the history between these two characters and how they have some conflicts and some brilliant lightsaber duels between these two characters as well. We then have Padame versus Zero, who is Jabba the Hutt's uncle, and kind of seeing how he is a lot more involved in the plot, and kind of really nice to kind of see the Padame character having her own storyline in this movie as well. So, you know, whilst it does feel like an extended TV show episode and is not as epic as the other Star Wars movies are, it was still a really nice entry in and of itself. So from a cast and characters point of view, it was so nice to see these characters coming back. I've always said that the prequel trilogy characters are definitely the best, and it was really nice to kind of see more adventures from these brilliant characters. Obviously it's really sad that we see all of this whole world being obliterated in Revenge of the Sith, and now we can go back in time and kind of see lots more adventures with these characters, which is really great. And like I said before, it was really nice that some of the cast returned from the prequel trilogy for this special one-off movie, which is really cool as well. So let's go through the characters one by one. So first up we have Matt Lanter, who is being introduced as the new voice of Anakin Skywalker, the legendary Anakin Skywalker, whose thread is continued throughout the entire Star Wars franchise. And here Matt Lanter really does bring this character to life and really does have a bit of Hayden Christensen in him as well, which is really, really cool. And it's really nice to kind of see this character stretched as well in terms of having a new Padawan and also being a Jedi hero. So brilliant character growth for the Anakin Skywalker character. Next up we have Obi Wan Kenobi, and I would have wanted to see more scenes between Obi Wan and Anakin Skywalker. Obviously we do get a lot more of this throughout the Clone Wars series, but I just feel like these two characters together is absolute magic, and it just would have been nice to kind of see a bit more of that. But that being said, you know, Obi Wan is a Jedi Master, is a great leader, and kind of continues that thread in this movie. We then have Ahsoka Tano, who is introduced in this movie. I know a lot of people weren't that sure of her in the beginning, but she really did definitely make a big name for herself. It was one of the few characters that literally saw all of the craziness throughout the entire Star Wars franchise. So this was a brilliant character that was introduced in this movie. Next up we have Dooku, who had the voice actor coming back from the movies to play this character, which is really, really cool. And he was definitely the new big bad in this movie. He still had Palpatine overseeing everything, but Dooku definitely was the main villain and leader in this movie. Next up we have Asajj Ventress, and like I said, she was Dooku's apprentice. And like I said, it was really nice to kind of see Dooku in a bit of a leadership position, having someone reporting into him, and kind of her being her own badass at the same time, which is really interesting. Nice to see Yoda and Mace Windu back in this movie as well. They had very reduced roles in this movie. Obviously, you can't be spread across that many characters having their own big storylines. And like I said, they definitely came into their own throughout the Clone Wars series. But that being said, really nice to kind of see these guys here as well. C-3PO unintentionally saving the day for Padame, which is really nice as well. Speaking of Padame, she came back too and was kind of having her own storyline as well, kind of seeing the romance between her and Anakin Skywalker in this film as well, which is really, really great too. Next up we have the Hutt family. So we have Jabba the Hutt, which was a nice throwback to the original trilogy being linked to the prequel trilogy. And he was kind of like the main character that everyone's trying to impress. Everyone wants to have alliances with this character, which is really, really interesting. You also see Jabba the Hutt, son of Rotta, in this movie as well, and a lot of the storyline strands are all about saving this character and returning him to the Jabba the Hutt and him being framed for murder and all of this sort of craziness happening with this character. And then finally we have Zero, who is Jabba the Hutt's uncle, and how even within the Hutt clan there's still backstabbing and a lot of craziness happening. So from a cast and characters point of view, really nice to kind of see these group of characters back and having more adventures that really nicely slot in between episodes 2 and episodes 3. So from a visuals point of view, it's really interesting with the Clone Wars movie, as this was the first proper time that Star Wars really tackled animation, and it does look a bit clunky, and the Clone Wars animation definitely did get a lot better over time. And you know, since then they've done a lot of animations, and you know, including Rebels and loads of different animation TV shows, and the animation does improve a lot. But in this movie, you know, it does look a bit clunky and is obviously not comparable to the big epic Star Wars movies. But that being said, it is still watchable and you do feel like you're immersed in the Star Wars universe. In terms of comparisons, I'd say this obviously is not as good as the movies are. This is a really nice standalone entry, but it's not as good as the movies are. And also within the Clone Wars universe, I think there were better storylines that you see across the 7-season arc. But that being said, it is still a nice standalone entry that does kind of start and introduce you into the whole world of the Clone Wars. And anything with the prequel characters is always a winner, and seeing more adventures happening in between episodes 2 and episodes 3 is only a good thing. So from that point of view, it definitely does stand on its own. So in terms of the ending of the Star Wars Clone Wars movie, it was really, really interesting, as it had that classic Star Wars formula in terms of there is a lot more going on than first meets the eye. So you actually find out that Zero and Dooku were actually working together and conspiring to kind of set everything up in terms of wanting to frame Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker for the murder of Jabba the Hutt's son Rotto. And then once they would have framed these two characters, obviously Jabba the Hutt would have wanted these two characters to be executed. The Jedi would have then imprisoned Jabba the Hutt for what he's done, and then Zero would have stepped in and taken over all of the Jabba the Hutt stuff. And then on top of all of that, Palpatine was kind of overseeing all of this and masterminding the whole thing. So Palpatine, as always, was the big bad behind the whole thing. But as their plan didn't work, Palpatine didn't really mind, as you know, what was to come is their bigger plan in Revenge of the Sith. So it inserted really nicely into everything, and like I said, was a great introduction into the whole Star Wars Clone Wars universe. Overall, I did enjoy Star Wars The Clone Wars movie. Like I said before, anything to do with the prequel characters is always a winner. I would have wanted to see more scenes with Anakin Skywalker and Obi Wan Kenobi, but that being said, you know, it was a really nice introduction into the whole Clone Wars world, and then a great introduction into the Ahsoka Tano character as well. I feel like this storyline was a little bit weak, but that being said, it is still enjoyable. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give this standalone movie a solid 5 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.